Hey guys, welcome to the SimRacingPaddock. I'm William Marsh, and this is my review on Wreckfest. Wreckfest is an interesting beast. It follows up on the legacy of Bugbear's completely insane Flatout series while attempting to ground it in reality. The result is a title that has no right being this good. Wreckfest, in my opinion, is one of the more enjoyable racing games in recent memory. Wreckfest has been in development for over 4 years and was previously known as Next Car Game when it was first released in early access in late 2014. Prior to that, there was a tech demo released in 2013 showing off one of the main features of the game, a soft body physics model with an insane damage engine. In theory, you could beat the car to an absolute pulp, or something somewhat reminiscent of that metal block from Monsters Inc. Fortunately, that tech demo is also included with the base game, so you can enjoy wrecking to your heart's content. Once you're done destroying your car in 100 different ways in the tech demo, you can find that Wreckfest is a surprisingly competent and diverse racing game. Wreckfest does away with the insane boosting and ragdoll physics that were the hallmarks of the Flatout series, and elects to go for a more raw, visceral racing experience. If I had to describe Wreckfest in one sentence, I'd say it's a mix of Demolition Derby and that Top Gear episode when Mika Hakkinen tries to teach James May to race in Finland. After a tumultuous development cycle, which included a failed Kickstarter campaign and a 4-year early access cycle, the full release of Wreckfest is live, and I have this to say. This game definitely beat the odds and is great fun. It's a stupid mix of absolute absurdities mixed in with realism, and the crazy part? It actually works really well. Wreckfest has a car and track roster of around 22 cars and 20 courses in the form of 17 tracks and 3 Demolition Derby arenas. Admittedly, the content is a little on the shallow side, especially given the $45 price tag on Steam. However, one great element to Wreckfest is modding, which can greatly add to the variety of content. For example, one must-have mod I'd recommend is the Very Track Pack, which will add over 40 more tracks to the game. A great part of the Wreckfest car roster is that there is solid variety. There are no real-life manufacturers, but there are cars based off of American muscle cars, European sports cars, and Japanese cars as well. Also, there are some absolutely insane challenge cars, including a lawnmower, school bus, and even a combine harvester. These special vehicles can really shake things up over the course of a figure 8 or Demolition Derby event. Want to enter a 3-wheeler Reliant Robin style car into the Demolition Derby? I wish you the best of luck. Also, each vehicle can be customized and tuned, so if you like to modify your car, you'll likely find something to enjoy. The tracks included in the base game are alright, but it feels like it's lacking in variety. There are oval courses, figure 8s, street circuits, mixed surface races, and even Demolition Derby arenas. However, some of the courses end up feeling a bit generic, and after a while, it seems like the tracks blend together. There are a couple standouts though. For example, the Crash Canyon course is a rather interesting course that looks to strongly encourage wrecking and absolute chaos. Speaking of absolute chaos, let's talk about the damage engine, as that's one of the main features for Wreckfest. The damage engine utilizes a real-time soft body physics model, somewhat similar to the engine used in Beam and G Drive. For the most part, the damage engine works really well and creates a very raw experience. Parts fly off, cars turn into mangled heaps, and the track will quickly turn into a scrapyard littered with debris. The damage engine does have a few quirks though, which can be somewhat off-putting. For example, the steering wheel will deform in very weird ways, and sometimes the A-pillar of the car will buckle in to the point where it can even obstruct your vision. Also, strangely enough, the driver model will also deform as part of the damage model, so sometimes the driver's head will be absolutely destroyed over the course of a race. Despite those quirks, the damage model is very solid, and it even has a realistic mode where the car's damage is far more sensitive, and it is, in theory, possible to end your race in a single hit. Now, let's talk about one of the more important parts, physics. The physics in Wreckfest are surprisingly solid and well grounded in reality. In a stark shift compared to the previous Flatout titles, Wreckfest goes more for a simulation-esque physics style, actually requiring driving skill to succeed. Don't be fooled, it's nowhere near the level of a full sim, but that's not what they're going for. It's going for an easy yet believable physics model, and they pulled that off really well. If you like the physics in games like Dirt 3, then I think you would really enjoy Wreckfest's driving style. Another pleasant surprise is the graphics. The graphics engine used in Wreckfest looks great, especially the particle effects when there's debris flying around. Testing with both my NVIDIA GTX 970 and GTX 1080, I was able to maintain a solid 60 frames per second at 1080p and made for a great experience. The tracks could admittedly have benefited from more details, but for a lower budget title, it's pretty decent. The AI in Wreckfest are surprisingly good as well, and it's some of the best I've experienced in a recent racing game. They will genuinely put up a fight and will give you a run for your money. They will also act like believable human beings in the game, ramming you off the road as well as making believable mistakes. Racing against the AI in Wreckfest is actually a fun and enjoyable experience. Also, if you want to add more depth to the AI, you can download third-party AI packs, which will actually rename the AI to different people. Given the solid AI, it's somewhat of a disappointment that the career mode is one of the more disappointing elements of the game. Career mode is some of the same formulaic pick a race, run the race, move on to the next event career mode that you generally see tacked on to racing games nowadays. You'll earn credits and parts to upgrade your vehicles as you progress in the career. A few challenge events are mixed into the series as well, such as a lawnmower destruction derby, which is as fun as it is chaotic. However, I just found myself wanting more. More events, more variety, etc. Maybe it will be fleshed out in future patches, but I wouldn't exactly hold my breath. Maybe the modding community could add more events in the future. Despite the enjoyable AI, Wreckfest is best enjoyed with other humans. The multiplayer experience is great and it allows for absolute chaos. Stick 24 drivers on a racetrack and you're gonna get the shrapnel flying like crazy. Team racing can also provide a decent challenge, making sure you're racing as a team and not just racing to finish first. All in all, Wreckfest is a great racing game and can provide for a lot of fun if you like these types of games. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I bet most people will be finding something to enjoy in Wreckfest. Before we get to the pros and cons, let's touch on some footnotes. Wreckfest features support for high-end hardware. My SimuCube Open Sim Wheel and Heusinkveld Pro pedals, shifter, and handbrake are all supported by Wreckfest. Prior to release, you can only have a maximum of 4 devices plugged in. Post-release, that limitation has now been lifted. While this would have been a great title for virtual reality, unfortunately, Wreckfest does not support VR headsets, though it might be for the best, because I can imagine racers needing a puke bucket next to their sim rig. Wreckfest also does not fully support multi-display rendering. It does support triple screens via NVIDIA Surround, but it does stretch out the side screens similar to Codemasters titles or Forza Motorsport 7 on the PC. Sounds are passable, but they are very generic. Muscle cars have a decent grunt to them, but sounds may be one of the more disappointing elements of the game. In addition, it feels like some of the sounds need to be mixed better. For example, wrecks that are a bit of a distance away will sound much closer than they should. I have not found a way to get a true visual one-to-one rotation on the steering wheel. The in-game wheel just does not visually match the rotation of the real-world wheel. I also wish there was a way to just remove the wheel entirely outside of a third-party mod that will also trip the cheat detection system. With that out of the way, let's get on to the pros and cons, and as always, let's start with the pros. Wide variety of cars with customization options. Decent, believable physics engine. Brutal damage engine. Good AI that will race you hard. Decent graphics and not too draining on hardware. Well implemented multiplayer, supporting up to 24 racers. Supports third-party modding. Includes the sandbox tech demo. And now let's get on to the cons. Tracks have a somewhat generic feeling. Damage can be a little over the top and somewhat intrusive at times. Career mode is rather bare bones. No support for multi-display rendering or virtual reality. Virtual steering wheel in-game feels off. Sounds sound a little weird. A little expensive for what you get. So the question is, do I recommend Wreckfest? It truly is a great racing game and a great way to vent frustrations by pounding opponents into oblivion. It has decent physics, solid AI, a brutal damage engine, and a solid netcode for online racing. While there are a few complaints I have with the title, this still has provided for some of the most fun I've had racing in a while. The main concern I'd have is with the $45 price tag. For $30, I'd say this is easily a no-brainer, and it may even be a must-have racing game. For nearly $50, I'd say you need to weigh out how much you would get out of it. If you tend to prefer your racing games more straightforward, if you cringe at the idea of rubbing fenders together, you likely won't be a fan of Wreckfest. However, if you enjoy the thought of Demolition Derby style racing, salivate at the idea of a figure 8 race, and get unusually excited at the prospect of running someone over with a lawnmower, then you'd likely get hours of enjoyment out of Wreckfest. So these are my thoughts on Wreckfest. Have you given the title a try? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please hit that like button and help keep us on track. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh, and you have a great rest of your day.